And with that, we got a great analyst. Matt Hasselbeck is joining us live. You know, when I watched Buffalo yesterday, it was funny. So Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, and they had to pivot to being more efficient because they weren't going to be as elegant over the top. And Stephon Diggs leaves, and I'm like, this team runs the ball. They have pivoted to kind of a more boring team. They don't allow sacks. They don't get penalties. They don't turn it over. And I keep saying to myself, they've kind of grown up. I feel like I've watched the Bills grow up in the last year.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said there. And, you know, the committee approach at the running back position, you know, I remember when Josh Allen would lead the team in rushing, and you didn't see that yesterday. I mean, really, you know, you saw one running back running it down to the one, and another guy comes in to score the touchdown. Like, so what? Who cares? We don't care about credit. We don't care about carries. We're sharing the load in the running game. I would say the same thing in the passing game. I think 9 different guys caught passes yesterday. So it's much tougher to defend a quarterback, when he's spreading the ball around, taking what the defense gives him in a sense, and like not really caring about, do I have to get this guy his touches so he doesn't throw a little temper tantrum on the bench. I think Buffalo has certainly lived that life. People live that life. But I think the life that they're living right now, where it's more of a team and more spreading it around, is certainly working for them.
How much blame goes to Lamar Jackson? What did you think?
You know, Lamar is one of my favorite quarterbacks. I think he's one of the great quarterbacks of all time. And one of the things that I absolutely love about him is his leadership at the podium. After the game, you hear a lot of quarterbacks when the game doesn't go well, they say, oh, we got to be better on third down. We can't turn the ball over. It's like, bro, you got to stop turning the ball over. You were the reason we turned it over. Lamar, you never hear that out of him. He always accepts the blame. It's almost like it just comes right from his head, right through his mouth. He's like mad at himself. I think that's one of the reasons that not only do his teammates love him, the opponents respect him. I think it's one of the reasons that he will eventually get there. But clearly, the interception early, super uncharacteristic of Lamar. The fumble after the bad snap, taking a bad situation, making it worse. Those were 2 plays that he's really going to be kicking himself about the entire offseason. But again, I just really believe that accountability at the quarterback position, not a lot of guys have it. Lamar has it. And so for that reason, for the long haul, I'll take Lamar any day of the week.
So, you know, it's interesting. The Eagles have 65 net passing yards. But I do believe that part of the sustainability of this team is that Jalen Hurts is okay with it. I mean, he played at Bama. Like, he knows, like, it's not just about me. And I also think if I was a quarterback, and especially a guy that's a little smaller and has had injuries, I would be okay having a star running back. Like, I think the personalities on this team, Saquon, professional, classy, quiet. Jalen Hurts, reserved. Like, there's something about this team. Jalen is comfortable not leading them. And I think that's unique. I think most quarterbacks want to throw the ball. I think they like to, Howie Long always jokes, you can't have multiple quarterbacks in the room. They all take the oxygen out of it. What do you make of Hurts' style, some inefficiencies? What do you make of this offense?
Well, I do think he is the leader, and I think he's got a great leadership style. He doesn't care about leading in stats, you know, in terms of the passing game. But I think they got to be better. They got to be better in the passing game. I'll just flat out say it. The quarterback that they're playing is amazing as a runner and is amazing as a thrower. And that's not just on Jalen. The guys around him got to step up. It was bad weather this weekend. It's going to be bad weather probably the next weekend. You got to catch the ball in bad weather. The better player, the guys around him got to step up and play well in cold weather. But at the same time, I don't know if it was injury or what, Jalen Hurts didn't look like the best version of Jalen Hurts that I've seen. So he's got to raise his game and be at his best. Do I think Philly can, not fly Eagles fly, run Eagles run to the Super Bowl? I do. But at the same time, they do need more out of their passing game. I know they say they could do it if they wanted to. You're going to need it against Washington, in my opinion.
You can lose at home in a playoff game, but the way Detroit lost, does that resonate in the offseason? Do you think they're going to kind of review some things? That was ugly. Some of it injury, but some of it just mistakes.
I think sometimes, and you saw it in some of the games, you can try too hard. You can want it too bad. And I think that was just the case. If you look at all the teams that didn't win, turnovers were really the story of the weekend. You got to protect the ball. You can't be sloppy with it. You can't be careless. You can't, I think, just try to force something that's not there. And really, turnovers, that's what did Detroit in. And I know they won a game earlier this year where they had a bunch of turnovers, but by and large, if you want to know the formula to not losing, you have to protect that football. There's a lot of coaches in the NFL. They've got signs all around the building. I remember when Pete Carroll came to Seattle from USC, he took down just about every sign and picture that Mike Holmgren had hanging there for like 10 years. And Jim Mora after that, he took them all down. And he put up basically in every single room, there was a sign that said, it's all about the ball. And so whether you have a sign or not, that is true. Turnovers will get you beat. And that's what got the Detroit Lions beat this weekend.
Okay, I watched Eli Manning, Joe Burrow go on the road, go through the playoffs as an underdog, and get to Super Bowls. It can happen. The personnel-wise, Washington, Philly feels like a massive mismatch. How much of a shot do you give Jayden Daniels and the Commanders?
Well, unfortunately, I lost the Super Bowl to a wild card team in the Pittsburgh Steelers who did just the same thing. And I also, if you look at just like what's gone on, the home teams are usually winning, but it hasn't mattered to Washington. I see people talking about their inexperience being a negative. It is not a negative. They went on the road to Tampa against a hot Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans team. They said, so what? There's a game. Anyone, anywhere, anytime. Let's go. Let's win it. Then they go the next week. They win it. They're going to Philly. Like they don't care. Like they don't even know. Like they're not like, oh man, remember we had those home playoff games? Like it's nothing to them. So I just think that they're so engrossed in the game. They've got poise that's like never been seen before out of a rookie quarterback, and they're playing so well. Cliff Kingsbury has them dialed in. I think Dan Quinn has the bigger job on defense because I don't think the defense is as talented as the offense in Washington. So that'd be the big question for me. But can they get to the Super Bowl? I said it on this show a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago. Absolutely, you could have a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl, and Jayden Daniels is the guy to me.
So let's go back, segue back to Bills Chiefs. So it's interesting. Buffalo's beaten Kansas City several times, not in the game, but this does not feel like Baltimore, Kansas City to me, where Baltimore just can't get past it. We saw, I think it was first week of the year, Baltimore lost by a toe to Kansas City. I think Buffalo feels we've beaten these guys. We've beaten these guys multiple times. I don't think psychology plays a role in this game. I think better team wins, but I haven't played the game you have. When you get to a conference championship, do those ghosts reappear for Buffalo?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a pretty mentally tough team. They know each other really well. I kind of mentioned that all year I felt like all these teams, Kansas City and Buffalo, they were kind of going through the motions, knowing that these guys were going to meet up at the end of the year at some point. And that's what you see. I really think home field advantage is going to be the biggest player in this game. You heard Tony Romo talking about it, like getting into the perfect play, not wasting plays, using your cadence. That's an advantage that Buffalo has had so far in the playoffs. I think Josh Allen does a great job with that. But I think the best in the league is Patrick Mahomes at using his cadence, getting the protection right, getting into the right play. And so that home field advantage, there's a reason why guys care about it so much. It's not so much like, oh, you need people cheering for you or you don't want people booing against you. No, it's the communication at the line of scrimmage for these new age offenses that are calling 1, 2, or 3 plays in the huddle. And it's just so important to get that communication done right. And you talk about no penalties. It's a lot easier to have no penalties, especially offensively, when you're at home.
So the rule states very clearly in the NFL, you can't challenge roughing the passer. And it also says, we looked it up this morning, when in doubt, call roughing. If you think it's roughing, call it. They demand that. It's in big black letters and underlined in the rule book. It's like we say in baseball, tie goes to the runner. Tie goes to the quarterback. Call it. I also think Mahomes manipulates refs. So does LeBron. Does it bother you what you're seeing, or did you try to, whenever you could, to kind of leverage and manipulate moments physically?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line there. I think the NFL will get it right. I think everyone's a little bit embarrassed by, the fact that they didn't get the call right. I think replay assist will probably come in at some point. But I'm kind of okay with like what happened because I do think they'll get it fixed. The Mahomes at the sideline flopping. I mean, I used to give Andrew Luck a lot of heat about that. I used to think like he'd sometimes flop. He was a huge soccer fan. And I was like, okay, listen, this isn't soccer, but at the end of the day, I think they will get it right. Do I think they got it right in that game? No, they didn't. There's room for improvement, but I also don't think that's why the Texans lost the game. I think the Texans lost the game for other reasons. And so I'm not going to sit here and discredit the Chiefs for the reason, for that being the reason they won the game. But did penalties have a huge play in that early drive? Yeah, it did. It really did. But again, I think it's just something everyone needs to learn from, basically.
Now, I will say, for the record, on the Will Anderson hit, from the perspective of the official, when it happened in real time, Matt, I thought it was. I mean, the way from my television seat, I watched it like this one right here. My first take was, oh, that's helmet to helmet. And so,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, boom, that looks right there like helmet to helmet the first time you see it quickly.
Yeah, and that's why I will never criticize officials. It's bang, bang. You're trying to do the best you can. It happens in real time. I think our officials do a really good job, actually. But we're using replay assist for all this other stuff. And there's only one game going on during the playoffs. It's not a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday during the regular season where there's so much to watch. You got to get this right. We have slow motion. We have high def. We have replay assist. That's where I'm saying, like, hey. Now, listen, I also would say watching the Baltimore versus Buffalo game the next night, you can't tell me that those officials didn't just let those guys play.
Yeah.
It was a completely different game, how it was officiated.
Yeah.
The consistency was not there. I saw an official get knocked over to the ground after a late hit on a fight. Nothing happened. Like, they weren't even calling PI. So, like, to think that, like, there wasn't some sort of conversation like, hey, we maybe overdid it, overprotected. I saw Lamar Jackson, who's probably going to win the MVP, get tackled out of bounds with, trust me, these guys are human. They're talking about it. But until the competition committee gets together in the offseason and puts a proposal out there, I don't know how much they can get it changed in a way that's consistent.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. There was a lot of physicality in the Ravens-Bills game. And it's, listen, officials, they're all sitting watching that one game at their hotel, and they're going, oh, boy, this is bad. Then they're on their phones, and everybody's saying officials stink. So point made by
even the Goff interception on the pick six when he took it in the chin, he literally takes the helmet straight to the chin and there's no flag. And again, I think that's where people are kind of like, well, why did it happen for one quarterback? I do think there's a little bit of a market correction and the officials do communicate from game to game. They talk about it.
Matt Hasselbeck, as always on a Monday, money. Thanks for coming on the show, bud, as always.
See you, Colin.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.